Hello all and welcome back to the Kitbash Foundry and our ongoing Dogs of War Army series. During the course of the last few videos, we've been concerned really with the makeup of the units for our army and see what models we can use to proxy different units within that force. Since we've been using the Renegade Crowns listing, we've been able to do some very near setups to the existing historical Dogs of War units. However, one strength of the Renegade's Crowns listing is the ability we can use to make up characters within that armour. Obviously, these have different characteristics that we assign to, and which will then give buffs and bonuses towards units. And as soon as we only really had one that we were dealing with the original 500 point list that we put together, I think it's now time that we investigate, see if we can add a bit more character to our armour. Not only for these builds am I going to look at warrior characters, but it's time for me to step a little bit into toying with the different magics that's within Warhammer the Old World. So I'll be looking at maybe the characters. One will be warrior type, but the other two definitely going to be on the wizard end of the spectrum. I also want to give myself a little bit of a challenge with this video as well. Now, it's all well and good being able to select the parts that you want to work with, because you've got an image in your head, an idea of how you want the final model to turn out with, and you'll be able to pick and choose the different parts and different sprues and different kits to be able to work towards that vision. But what if you didn't have that option? What if a majority of your choices were made at random, and maybe were made at random by not yourself? So I employed my daughter, and while she was sitting down near to the hobby desk doing homework at the time, I asked her to choose for me a number of sprues out of the spares box, seeing what she'd come up with, whether she'd pick something she'd like the look of or whether she'd just go random pull. And judging by the amount of time she spent actually taking the sprues out of the box, I think she wanted to have a look about what was in there and what took her fancy. So for the majority of the build then, I'm going to be dealing with those kits that have been pulled from me, and we'll have a look about which ones they were as we get into the little individual builds. But I'm going to put myself a caveat in that there is some parts that I can choose for myself. For example, some kind of weapon option maybe, or the head that I'm going to use on the model. But everything else has to be taken from one or more of those random sprues or random bits and pieces that have been chosen for me. So where we're going to start, I think we can start with with the wizards, seeing as that's the way that we're pushing these builds. So the first guy is going to be, the main body is going to be taken from the Free Guild Fusiliers, so those nice big like trench coat type jackets that these guys seem to be wearing. So the wizard himself is going to be considerably probably better dressed than what you'd expect. So maybe have some kind of influence and importance within the area that he deals with. And so therefore, which branch of sorcery are we going to go for? Well, I think somebody who's got a bit of influence and a bit of influence may have made deals with other forces beyond the realm, so to speak, to give him that little bit of advantage. So I think we're going to go for a bit of demonology with this guy. Now, in line with that, it could be that all these dealings with these demonic forces and the darker side of things have maybe had a little bit of toll on his sanity, so to speak, and sent him a little bit off kilter. So the part that I'm going to choose to add to this model is actually the head. And we're taking it from Puppets War and their Mad Clowns range, because it's like, you know, wild hairstyles and maniacal laughter. They're really sort of like that slightly out there on the edge sanity thing that we might be going for. This does quite fight well with that backstory about maybe dealing with entities, and that dealings have made him slightly mad. Anyone who's played Call of Cthulhu would know exactly where I'm coming from with this kind of thing. But the other final bit was going to be put in to when the actual guy was painted. Now, maybe he's having deals with his demons, but he's in fact actually scared of having them completely take it over. So what I thought was, well, with that nice clothing, would it be a nice idea if maybe that clothing was somehow blessed, somehow treated, somehow tainted with some form of spell or ritual that sort of like protected him a bit against the demons itself. So he might have a number of quotes, ward spells actually woven into the fabric or printed on the fabric, which kept some of these demons at bay. So during the painting process, I've got a couple of decals here that have like parchment readouts on it, so you can attach them to books and stuff like that for your own benefit. But just looked quite cool when I stuck it on the outside of the cloak. So here's my demonologist in his finery, consorting and protecting himself against the demons that have come up to play with him. So wizard number 2. So again, didn't want to have a generic flavour of wizard, or I didn't want to go too much into the same school. So this guy is going to be a bit of a different flavour and a different twist than the first guy. This model won't be as well dressed because the main component and the main body is taken from actually one of my favourite kits, the Necromunda Ashwaste Nomads. I think these kits are amazing, especially with the bodies, and they're so transferable between different game systems. It's unbelievable. So he's going to be a bit more ragged, a bit more decrepit. So this leads us to, which magic is this guy going to be involved himself in? Well, to have so much decay and all the rest of it about him, he's really got to be going and dabbling with the powers of the dead and a bit of necromancy on the go. In fact, the only thing that I'm going to have on him, which is going to be anywhere new or fancy or whatever, is going to be his staff, which is going to be endured with the symbols of his power over the dead and all the rest of it. So you can see that with the kits and with the two builds themselves, there is quite a difference in flavour, even though it is literally the two options of the two different bodies who have given us this complete difference between them in the first place. And it's just that matter of selection at the start of the build that's come about. So it's kind of, I think, quite cool. Demonology and necromancy in the armour. Yeah, they're renegade crowns, so they're not going to sort of fit in, with the ways that sort of like the normal Empire guys are doing stuff. So gives us a little bit more of those magical shenanigans that can happen on the table, and look forward to seeing what kind of things they throw up. So we're going to, obviously, now we've got a couple of wizards in there, we just need another hero type character, another warrior type character to add to our force. Maybe he's going to go down and he's going to eventually be the battle standard bearer for the army when I go down that route, if I choose to go to. So with this, I wanted him, or I had the idea that he was going to fit into one of the units that we've already put together and already built. So then we're going to, and it was pulled out, that we're going to revisit that Blood Bowl Empires kit, and we're going to put something together that's going to fit with our unit that we've already done and already covered in this series of videos. So it's an easy fit to the army, maybe just a little bit more flamboyant, so not using the steel helm that we've used on the rest of the unit, but have some more of a flamboyant headgear. So again, the head fit was the head that I'm going to use was really was my option part to add into the build, and it was just taken from a set of 3D print things that I've got for other sets that have just been hanging around in the box, so to speak. So not only have I used a kit that's existing that we all know works quite well, it's going to fit solidly into the other unit, not take away from the army, but also be able to add towards the whole footfall of the army itself and how the army works on the table if I choose to go down the battle standard bearers route. Obviously, with these guys, we're going to have an idea of which of the characteristics from the renegade crowns we're going to give to these character models, we're going to give to these heroes, and how they're going to have effect on the units that they join, if they do join the units, or on the army itself. But that's something that's going to have to be a little bit of play and find out, or play and see what actually works with the army I've got. So realistically, it means that I need to finish up and have a culpable 2,000 points force that I can actually get on the table and actually play some of these games to the points limit where most of the standard games are played. I mean, I know we've got, events from anything from 500 points all the way up to sort of like 3,000 points, depending on where you are in the world, depending on what your area plays. But it seems at the most part, around about that 2,000 points is the done figure. So I'm going to have to add in a couple more bits and pieces just to bring me up to that level. Now, the couple of things that I've always wanted to have a look at is, again, make sure that these unit choices I make fit in with the Dogs of War theme, making sure that I'm putting maybe ideas and aesthetics from the Dogs of War, the original Dogs of War book. So therefore, then it's always worthwhile to make sure that at least the unit types have got a little bit of a carryover into the book itself. So one of the choices is going to be to add some artillery to my unit. Now, in the Renegade Crowns list, we've got the joys of the Renegade Crowns Bombard, which is seen as probably one of the most useful artillery pieces in the game. So that's where we're going to go down the route. We're going to again just slightly convert from the Free Guild cannon system by basically just not employing all of the shielding and the armour that's on it, so a bit more of a stripped down version. The guys and crew are going to be a little bit more of a kitbash, so again using like a lot of the kit from that artillery piece set, but maybe adding odds head swaps in, different arms, and just make up the 3-man crew that will go along with that bombard itself, so it gives us that artillery option. The other bit is seen as probably not a choice that would be made by anyone who's looking at refining their list for competition, so we speak. But I've always liked the idea of the Giants of Albion in the original Dogs of War, so I'm going to include a giant in my force. It's a good way to get rid of a fair few points without having to deal with putting a big band together. And to be quite honest, this army has always been about the aesthetic, the storyline, and the fun behind putting one of these armies together. And what can be fun than using the giant who's using a cow as some kind of primitive flail? You can answer that one in the comments below if you choose to. So this is our army, our full force now, ready to hit on the table. So what's the plan going forwards then? Well, obviously the plan going forwards is I've got to go see these guys on table. So whether that's joining in competition with them, which maybe I'm not too confident about going to a 2,000 point competition just yet. Still need a bit more of a grasp around the rules and such. Maybe a lot more games with friends or at the... But what does that mean for the future of the series? Well, as soon as we got to the 2,000 points now, it seems like a point where we could move on to something else and come back to it at a later date. I've got two options really to go for, and I'd like to hear what you guys would like to see us carrying on. We have got the ability that we do play other games here at the Kitbash Foundry, and so there are other games that we kitbash and put models together for. So we have the option of exploring one of those for a few months, etc. Or we can carry on with the Dogs of War for a bit. Now, to carry on with the Dogs of War, I'm maybe going to need your help. And what I mean by that is I've come up with the army now, so I've explored the units I want to explore out of the original Dogs of War book. We're not going to get an updated Dogs of War book because basically that's what the Renegade Crowns has been designed to be. I know a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, we're going to get Dogs of War after now. Not really when you look at it and look at the Renegade Crowns about where they're based in the old world, where their point of origin is. It's exactly the same as what the Dogs of War was for the majority of the units that we had. So I can't see us getting a additional Dogs of War book. We're probably going to have units that come along within other armies that have that Dogs of War keyword, so we can add them to our force, add them to your force as you go along. But I don't see any direct new issue of units. So why don't we come up with our own? If you want to, and if you're so keen, and you have an idea about a cool little unit that we could add to the Dogs of War ethos and the Dogs of War potential units, and you want to have a look at how we'd maybe put one of those units together from the description and from the system that you want to do, then let us know and let's see if we can find out, or let's see if we can create other units that maybe haven't been explored in the Renegade Crowns that were in the original Dogs of War, maybe, or maybe so like brand new units to cover some smaller holes within the units, maybe some smaller little flavour units. I've got two ideas that I'd like to put towards, so it's up to you. What do you want to see? Do you want to see these optional Dogs of War units, or would you like to see us explore some other games for a bit? Again, please leave your comments and please leave your ideas in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments, your likes and subscribes. It's gone over the last few months. It's much appreciated. Still slowly growing in terms of a channel, so hopefully we're going to make a bit more headway going in for the rest of the year. So, and it's all your comments, and especially about the guys who are saying that we're inspiring you to build stuff. That's the inspiration I need for carrying on and making the videos and doing the builds that I'm doing to share with you. But it's also great to see the stuff that you're working on, and that inspiration works completely both ways. So until next time, I hope you're all good. Hope you're all hobby projects are plentiful and all work out well for you, and hopefully we'll see you in the future. Ciao, a bit.